Let me begin this with two axioms. First, we're all unique. This is the most primary aspect of the entire idea I'm about to introduce, which is that even just based on chromosomal pairing alone from your parents, the fact that you exist is around 1 in 70 trillion. So that's to the power of like 10 to the power of 13. And that's only your genetics. If you factor in the fact that all of human history had to work the way it did for you to be here in this room, the fact that we all exist at all is a complete miracle. The second part of this is that objective reality exists inside your mind. Your brain is the only vehicle that allows you to actually perceive anything. So all your experiences that you've had, the knowledge that you have in your brain, the memories that you keep in your heart, they exist because your brain exists. Your brain is the one thing keeping them here, and it needs your healthy living body to do so. So, combining these two, I think it's quite obvious why life is valuable. Life is inherently valuable because everything happened well for this to exist, and you have to have a chance to enjoy life at all. The issue is that life is also short. Death comes for us all eventually, and when our body can no longer support our life functions, we die. Now, what's important to recognize here is that death is not some metaphysical entity haunting us. Death is a technical problem, and technical problems have factors and solutions. In this case, it's aging, biological aging. And this is the reason I care about working for longevity. Longevity may look like a topic just for people who are about to die, but I'm only 16 and I care about this because this is something we can work on earlier. If longevity were to succeed, we can maximize literally all the value in life. So how do we go about doing that? Let's be specific here. What actually keeps you alive now? Is it your heart? Your lungs? Your genetics? All three of these are aspects of one common goal, which is to make energy. Energy keeps you alive. Your life runs on energy, your cells run on energy, and they build the tissues and organ systems that you need to actually stay alive. And it's this lack of energy that causes you to age. Over time, a lack of energy in anywhere in your body, from your kidneys to your lungs, will cause it to become dysfunctional. It can't maintain itself, and once enough things can't do their job properly, a cascading effect begins, and you begin to age. Now, let's talk about the organelle behind all of this. I'm sure many of you know the mitochondria by now, the powerhouse of the cell. Mitochondria are much more unique than that. Look at that, they have their own DNA. The fact that they have their own DNA is incredible because it means that they can make their own protein structures to go create ATP, adenosine triphosphate, basically the most common energy in your body. And this is all great and well, but unfortunately, because it's DNA, it can mutate, and mitochondrial mutations happen at a significantly faster rate than your nuclear ones do, which is not great because then you just get less energy, which, as we've already discussed, is not functional. Next, they also create reactive oxygen species, which are these horrible toxic chemicals that will leak into your body, and over time it will begin to destroy all of your proteins by stealing their electrons, which is not great. These two aspects of mitochondrial mutation cause degenerative diseases. No matter where it happens in your body, it will cause something bad, and if you look at that list, tell me how many of them are basically just the common factors of old aging. Aging is a degenerative disease, and mitochondrial mutations are the core of it. So, while this sounds like gloom and doom, the good thing about mitochondria is we have a ton of them. We have thousands of them per the trillions of cells in your body, and they each have many copies of their DNA. What that effectively means is that even if some of them get mutated, the healthy ones will continue to exist, and you still get to live to like around 80-ish years. And the theoretical maximum, I think, is 130, around 130. But even so, eventually once all of them mutate, they're just going to collapse and everything goes to crap. So, what are some solutions we have? Modern medicine currently relies on basically one tactic, which is just to plug in any of the symptoms, which is great because it does extend your lifespan if you already have a disease, but it doesn't correct the fundamental problem that the mtDNA, mitochondrial DNA, is still mutating. What about gene therapy? Gene therapy has been a really, really great idea, I think, recently with CRISPR finally being able to be applied. But CRISPR doesn't work for mitochondria, it just can't get in. The option that we do have is what's called a nuclease. It's not very well known, but nucleases can cut mitochondrial DNA. If it does so, it can in theory make you healthier. But the issue is, you tell me what happens when we lose a bunch of DNA in mitochondria and they have to quickly replicate something that also mutates really fast. The result is basically the same. So the third option here is really just to make your mitochondrial DNA healthier because that's the core of the problem. And that's a solution mechanism I've been working on. I recently wrote an academic review paper on this subject, and this is the abstract. But to summarize it in general, the idea is, what if we were able to artificially increase the amount of healthy mtDNA you have in your body? It doesn't matter that you have more than the normal amount, because mitochondria already have more than a regular amount, and they can consistently use the healthiest options. What if this were possible? what would happen is your mitochondria will be constantly operating at its maximum capacity, which means that no reactive oxygen species start leaking into your system. You have all the energy you need, and nothing will age. Now, this is of course an idealistic solution, because the therapeutic aspect is significantly harder, but this is the idea. Lipid nanoparticles were introduced very recently in actual practice for COVID mRNA vaccines, which I think many of you might know about. And this idea is basically, you can contain these nucleic acids, DNA, inside lipid nanoparticles, shuffle them around your body, and you'll be able to basically keep your immune system constantly alert for COVID. Well, what if we could do the same for mitochondria? So I reached out to a LNP expert named Dr. Louis. She actually worked on LNPs for mRNA vaccines. And I basically asked her whether this would be a possible idea, whether using this for mitochondrial DNA and stopping aging would be functional. And what she said is basically, it's not very efficient. LNPs just don't do endosomal escape, like releasing enough. And while it works for a vaccine where you don't need much mRNA in the first place, it might not work for a full body therapeutic. So I decided to do a bit more research into this as well. It turns out that lipid nanoparticles do actually deliver drugs to mitochondria already. That's functional. So there's a bit of contrasting evidence, and I quickly realized that the main problem is that this is such a niche field, combined with the fact that all data we have is experimental. What do you do when you don't have theory? This is what I've been working on in simulation. Now, I was inspired by this, AlphaFold. How many people have heard about AlphaFold? Okay, it's pretty high actually. Basically, it's Google's DeepMind project that allows you to use AI to simulate proteins. They take in the structures of proteins that we know about, use it to predict proteins, and it's fast, it's efficient, it's accurate, and you can do this without a lab. So I'm envisioning something similar. What if you could do this for therapeutics? In that way, we would be able to cut out all the time and energy we actually have to spend validating certain things through experiments by just simulating a theory we already have. This currently does not exist because Dr. Wing informs me of it. And this membrane interaction, for example, simulating LNP going to a mitochondria, would be astronomical because then you could find the efficiency of any solution you want to do. And this isn't just for longevity, this works for all biotech, synthetic, like for example, synthetic biology or bioprinting. Now, this is an example of something I did. Basically, Prajwal and I we debugged a lab's version of a platform called Agile, which basically simulates lipids in a complete vacuum and how efficient they are. And this is the map generated by that. Basically, all these little dots are lipid nanoparticles, and how slimmer they are is how close they are. From this graph, you can already see we can simulate the efficiency of lipids. This is not some far-flung dream. This is possible. It's just that it's incredibly difficult to get this to work for membranes. So, in the end, this is still in its early stages. I'm still in the early stages of exploring projects to do here, but I think the theory itself is solid. So I'll end you with this. Now, I know longevity seems like a difficult topic, and aging is a huge problem. It's technically nuanced, but the good thing about working in longevity is that you have a very clear deadline. Thank you.